Hey everybody, welcome back. So glad to have you today. It's Tony, Pastor Brandon. So thankful you're here with us on the podcast. Thanks for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Appreciate you and your conversations we've been having, especially in the comment section. PB, let's kick off real quick. What are you listening to? What are you reading? And what are you watching right now?
I'm listening with anxious anticipation who is going to be the next Husky football coach.
Oh, yeah.
So any podcast I can listen to, whatever it is.
Will they bring back Sark? Will they bark for Sark?
I think Sark is making a lot of money being the coach of Texas.
He's making a lot of money.
I am for Chris Peterson coming out of the Fox Sports booth and
I wish.
back to the sideline.
I wish.
Coach Pete is like one of my heroes.
He's faithful.
Tonight I'm watching a lot of Kraken hockey. I'm
loving
a huge
it.
Golden Knights fan, but the Kraken are here. Tonight I'm going to the Kraken game.
So
all
cool.
decked out. I'm leaving right after this podcast.
So cool. So fun. Is it a cool stadium or arena, the new one?
It's, again, I'm a hockey novice.
Yeah.
So 5 years of following hockey. The only other hockey stadium I've been to is T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. It's just radically different.
Yeah.
It's built up. And T-Mobile is built out, so I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's very Seattle.
For me, it's forever the Key Arena. It won't change my heart.
There's video screens. It's just totally Seattle. There's plants growing out of the walls. And
If you're Alex Rodriguez and you're watching this right now, hey Rod, will you please bring us the Sonics?
yeah, I bring the Timberwolves.
Bring them
change their
here.
name.
Bring them here.
Hey, you are forgiven.
We'll be grateful
for signing that contract with Texas.
We'll forgive you.
Yeah, no, I won't throw money at you anymore.
No. We'll even buy your stuff on Shark Tank. All right, so we want to hit on this episode. Oh, you didn't talk about what you're listening to, or no? You said podcast. What are you reading right now?
I am reading. I just finished In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day.
Oh, good book. Great book.
And I recommended in a previous podcast that everyone read Irresistible, so I'm reading Irresistible. And I'm watching, because the entire church keeps telling me and asking me if I've been watching it, I am slowly starting my way through Yellowstone.
Wow.
You know I was born in Montana, right?
Yes. Yeah, you wear the shirts.
I'm a Great Falls, Montana.
You know Ariel was born in Montana?
No way. What
She was, I don't know, one of them. I don't know.
like four-
I don't know my Montana
There's four
very well.
towns in Montana.
Have never been there. Don't plan on it. So, I want to recommend a book to you that I've been reading that's been rocking my world. At Your Best by Carey Nieuwhof.
Okay.
I love anything Carey Nieuwhof. I just always appreciate that guy. Okay, PB, let's talk today. We're Jesus' name coming out of the pandemic right now, hopefully. In the pandemic, I think the topic of isolation was heightened.
Okay.
Today we're going to talk about the side effects of isolation. Isolation, I think if anything in the pandemic we learned was heightened, was shed on more light. And so I almost feel like maybe now living on the other side of this thing, that isolation became this thing that almost was like the norm. Almost not maybe a cultural norm, maybe for if you're still working a remote job, if you live in areas that like Seattle, California, New York, where maybe some things are still locked down, people have been isolated. We've noticed this with church attendance, not just at our church. This is like the capital C church that a lot of people still haven't gone back to church. A lot of people are still online. They're not going out. They're not doing much. We have apps that have made isolation convenient. Like, for instance, DoorDash. Could you imagine DoorDash 10 years ago? 15 years ago? The fact that I can pick any of my favorite restaurant, they're going to bring food to my door now, blows my mind.
Except it's cold by the time
it is. They always say less than 20 or 30 minutes, and then it's 59 minutes later.
I live in Mukilteo now, and I will order food from Diamond Knot.
Yeah, that's
which has great food.
Yeah,
it's 3 minutes from my house. It will come an hour after I order it, and it's always cold.
Yuck.
So.
We have apps like that deliver your food to you. I think I want to hit on today social media.
Okay.
Clearly, you can be on it and still feel very left out, have some FOMO, fear of missing out. Let's kind of start hitting on isolation, though. What would you say to someone right now, just right out the bat, who's maybe feeling isolated? Maybe not just because of the pandemic, but maybe they're lonely. Maybe they don't have a lot of friends in this season. How would you simply encourage that?
I mean, I would say I would encourage you to go to church. And one of the things, it is super convenient that people can work remotely, and there's lots of positives with social media. It allows you to stay connected to people that live in other states that you're friends with. So there is all of these positives with it, but I just don't think any of those things are a replacement from this.
Yeah, it's huge.
And part of the kingdom of God is all about relationships. Mm-hmm. And we're meant to have a relationship with Jesus. Yeah. We're meant to have a relationship with each other. Mm-hmm. There is no way to replace a worship experience where 1,000 people are crammed into our auditorium worshiping Jesus, and there's just no replacement for that in your house. And so I would say if you're feeling isolated, maybe you're afraid of COVID, maybe you're nervous about, are people going to wear masks or not? Put on a mask, come to church, and I would say get connected relationally, because life is not meant to be lived alone.
It really isn't. And I think if we even go back, book of Genesis, God makes Adam, creates Eve, sees that man.
It's not good for man to be alone.
It's just not. It's just not. I've noticed, though, a lot of people, and these are a lot of my friends, I think your advice is so good. I think that one of the best ways is just dive back in. I mean, like, you just immerse yourself, make friends, go to church, be active, be involved, get in a group, do something, maybe start serving somewhere. I have a lot of friends who, to be honest, they've now, and they've kind of enjoy this new norm. Like, they're cool just being indoors, and they're cool kind of like, hey, we're just kind of do our own thing, and I understand that that's kind of become the norm for someone, and obviously we want them fully immersed, and people are meant to be in a relationship. How would you encourage someone right now who maybe they're so used to the new norm? Would you what would you say to them? Should they maybe consider reshaping their norm, reconsidering their norm? What would you say to someone like that?
I mean, there's lots of great books that are written on habit. And as human beings, I think the rule of thumb is if you've done something 20 times, it becomes a habit. Mm-hmm. And people have just developed these habits. Yeah. And you develop that. It's hard to break a habit. And I always say that my kryptonite is donuts. And I love donuts. And I will rarely ever say no to donuts. And I can get in a habit of eating donuts a lot, but the problem is, as a 50-year-old man, I used to be able to burn off the calories from the donuts really quickly, and now they just hang out for a long time, and because I don't want to look like Homer Simpson, I have to break that habit, and so I always say one of the principles of fasting is fasting helps you break habits and start new ones, and so for part of Pastor's Huddle, the group of men that I mentor, I'm fasting donuts for the year. But I would say you got to develop some new habits again. So the number one thing that I encourage people with that I haven't seen, whether it's at church, I haven't seen them out in public, I just am encouraging them to get used to it again. It's really weird that when you're used to being isolated in your house and isolated just with your family, when all of a sudden you're in a group of people, it makes you really anxious.
Yeah.
And you have to overcome some of that social anxiety that you've developed in this season.
Yeah, that's so huge. I think the social anxiety thing, I've even noticed it in children. We'll take our daughter to the park. Other kids don't know how to talk to her. Our daughter in the pandemic, we brought her to the church. We were when the pandemic started, we were filming 6-7 videos a day here. So our daughter was at the church with us every single day we were here. So she was just used to seeing people. But I think that's such good advice. A book I would recommend to anyone out there who's looking at building new habits, creating a new path through their life. Atomic Habits, James Clear, one of the best books I've read in the entire year. Love that book.
Another great book is The Power of Habit.
Power of Habit. And hey, I will give you credit. We had donuts at staff meeting yesterday. They put the box in front of you. It was from Frost. It wasn't like basic Safeway donuts. It was from Frost. And you said no. And you pushed the box away. I was very proud of you in that moment. You could have had the donut. I wouldn't have been mad at you.
There's no greater accountability than having a group of guys and you're leading it saying, I'm fasting this and I'm daring you to fast something. And having them look at me and say, did you eat a donut? I don't want to be the one that says, yeah, I ate a donut.
Man. Pastor Brandon, let's talk kind of, you had mentioned a good ways to immerse yourself, kind of overcome this, identify, hey, maybe you might be struggling with some form of social anxiety, seeing people again. What's maybe a good way to start? You had mentioned go to church. What would you recommend? Maybe would it be like getting involved in like a group? Would it be like maybe picking up a new hobby, meeting some new people? Would be a good way to just kind of start immersing yourself and being involved?
Wow, we really went a different direction with this than I thought we were going to.
What were you thinking?
I had other stuff I was going to talk about, but this is really good.
Well, let's talk about that too. We got time.
Well, I guess to answer that, and then I'll
shift it.
I'm going to put comma and shift a different direction with isolation. I would say everything that you said is great. I just am a firm believer that life is not meant to be lived alone.
Yeah.
That you want to live life with people, that we are human beings, that I think the kingdom of God is all about relationship, and we just want to live life together. And one of the values at Venture Church is our value of community, and we want you to be known and you to know people and have people that you can live life with. That's one of our goals.
That's huge.
When I think of isolation, I think if I was just talking to other ministers, there's been seasons as a minister, like being a minister in general, our job is just unique. And you realize that your first job in ministry, your other 20-something friends don't understand your job. They're used to 9 to 5, Monday through Friday jobs. They're used to going camping on weekends. And they're not used to you saying things like, ooh, I can't go, I work. And so I right away in ministry realized that there was isolation there because I just had a different schedule than everybody else. But after a while, you're a youth pastor. Youth pastors are awesome at networking. And so you kind of have a fraternity of youth pastor buddies from all over and you become friends. There's less of that when you're a senior pastor. And there's even less when you're a church planner. I just remember I went from youth ministry to church planning. And I went from having this huge network of buddies, and we were calling each other all the time. We didn't have text back then, but we were emailing each other all the time. And then I became a church planner, and no one understood my world. And
wow.
You
agree with the statement, it's lonely at the top?
Yeah. I think it's even lonelier when... Because I would say you're definitely not at the top as a church planner. I mean, you are. There's one person. You're the top and the bottom. You're like both. You're just kind of over here.
You're the kids pastor. You're the worship leader. You're everything. You're the assimilations.
I mean, one of the biggest challenges that you have when you're the pastor of a church. So if fast forward to where I'm at now, is that like you and I are buddies, but I'm also your boss, but I'm also your pastor.
Yeah.
So I need you to produce with your job.
Yeah.
But I want you to enjoy working here, so we're friends too. And so you have this weird relationship with everybody.
It's very odd. There's no other maybe profession, occupation that's like this.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Maybe that's a way to get, I don't know, maybe that's a little strong of a term. You mentioned, ministry, especially being a church planner for you and Pastor Dye, it's lonely. It's hard, in the youth ministry world. It's like we're all kind of, like you said, it kind of in a frat. We have sisters, brothers, everyone's in it. But being a church planner, it's hard. What did you and Di do when you guys felt lonely? Like when you were like, hey, we moved out here to Seattle. We have young children. It's just us.
Di and I are very relational. And so we just, I would say like we adopt people into our family, and since there wasn't other like like when you're a church planner, a senior pastor, they have different issues than you have.
Yeah.
Like a senior pastor is, they're getting in arguments with people in the church because they want to change the color of the carpet, and when you're a church planner, you wish you had carpet.
Wow.
And like
so
you
good.
don't have a building to meet in, and like when I was a church planner and I'm meeting in schools, like I got all my pastor friends, they're like, yay, snow, my kid's gonna be home. And a church planner, you're like, no, if there's snow, I gotta cancel church because the school's closed.
Yeah.
And just totally different world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ministry is one of those jobs too. I think if we could just be really honest, I think pastors, we sometimes isolate ourselves because we'll see what's happening with someone else.
Oh, what I was going to say with that is what I started doing is because I realized I didn't relate to hardly anybody else other than a handful of church planners, is we just became really close to the people in the church, and they became like family. So I would say like that first, say, 200 people that really kind of were the foundation of Venture that are really still around today. We're just really, really, really tight with all of them.
Yeah, I think, making them your family, adopting that, because if we look at other churches and you look at other ministries, youth pastors do this all the time. I'm a victim of this. We'll look at someone else and think, man, look how good they have it. Look at them. Look what they have. But to be honest, what I noticed in my life, one of the cures to isolation was gratitude. Being very thankful for everyone God has put in my life here. When I think one of the lines we've been using as a team with our youth staff is, this is the big time. This is the biggest thing we're doing ever. This is the biggest show on the planet. This is the largest team ever. Man, we're doing a good work. This is worth it. Everything is worth it. I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for everyone that's on the journey with us. Thankful for everyone who gives up their time to be with us. How would you encourage a pastor, a minister watching today saying, hey, pastor, I'm lonely. I'm lonely. Maybe they're a church planner, or maybe they're even a senior pastor, and they're like, I don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah, I'll answer that, and then I'll make a suggestion for regular people.
Yeah.
I would say pastors infamously like show-off time.
Is that because all of us didn't peak in high school? Or because we did peak in high school?
Maybe.
Sorry, am I going to get canceled for saying that?
I don't really know. I don't know if that's true or
We'll
not.
see.
What I mean by show off time is
canceled.
like you're in a meeting with a bunch of pastors. Everybody's talking about how many people did you have come in, how's this and how's
how many
that.
are there?
And
you don't care.
I think it's really important for pastors just to be real.
Yeah,
So I
be
made a
honest.
decision a long time ago that I was just going to be, if somebody actually asked me how I was doing, I wasn't going to be the one that's like, yeah, fine, everything's great. I was actually literally going to tell them. And it provided some really awkward moments. They're like,
man.
oh, dude, you were just supposed to say okay and move on. I didn't know you were going to tell me everything else. I think pastors need to be real. The thing that I would tell, for those of you that are at home and you're feeling isolated, and maybe you just naturally always kind of felt that way, but with COVID, it's made you feel even more isolated. I really want to emphasize come back. Come back to church, and whether you come to Venture, you go to another church, come back to church. And I'm just going to be honest, because you want us in your life. Push comes to shove, Tony's a good guy. He has no hair, but he's a good guy. You want Tony in your life. You want to be his friend. He's a good friend. You want to hang out with Ariel. She's fun. You want to see Linny. Like she's like doubled in size.
Yes.
And I would say this, that my wife always says this too, that people just want to be her friend, and you want to be our friend. You want to be in relationship. You want us in your life, and I would say we're here. You know where to find us. I tell everybody I haven't gone anywhere.
I know.
I'm in the same place. I did move houses.
You didn't move to Texas or Idaho or anywhere like that.
No,
You
you're
stayed
like
put.
you're going for the.
I'm sorry.
dagger.
I'm so feisty today. I'm so feisty. No, but
God bless people that
God
moved
bless
to
you.
Idaho
God
and
bless you.
Texas.
Yes. Own it. We love Texas.
Go to a church there.
Go. Have a great time. One of the things I learn now is so Thursday night, I have my version. I took your pastor's huddle, adopted it, and made it our own. I have 9 guys I meet with. In the pandemic, I thought, I really miss community.
Yeah.
And Zoom just does not replicate that. So being with those guys, we meet every Thursday. We're meeting here tonight at 8:30 tonight p.m. We meet late because I have to wait for my kid to go to sleep. Nothing beats being together in a room. Just us and those guys.
Yeah. I am a sporto.
Yeah.
I am very passionate about sports, and I love sports. And oh my gosh, I'm pulling a Tony right now.
And he's getting feisty.
I'm not. This is not meant to be feisty, but I get asked often, Pastor Brandon, why did you get the vaccine?
There we go.
I wanted to go to sports.
Let's go. Oh, he's going there.
I legitimately got the vaccine like almost a year ago because I knew that I was going to be required to get the vaccine to travel, and I want to travel.
Yeah.
But as soon as I would have been told I couldn't watch a Husky game unless I was vaccinated, I was getting vaccinated. As soon as I was told I couldn't go to a Raider game, I was getting vaccinated. Yeah, I'll take what vaccinations do I need to get?
Yeah.
And it's because there's just nothing. It's not. I would rather I'd rather be at a Raider game live than watch it on TV because there's nothing like being with people.
Nothing. I just went to my first ever Seahawks game 3 weeks ago. High-fiving men and women you don't know. Amening, standing. No one tells you that you stand up the entire game. I was exhausted. It felt like a workout, like a HIIT workout by the end of the night. You just can't beat that atmosphere.
Can I tell you the greatest moment of maybe my entire life?
Yeah.
Besides my kids being
besides
born.
Marriage,
kids. Besides the things that
church,
I'm getting
whatever.
saved.
Yeah, okay.
1995.
Great year.
Mariners tied for the AL West
Go there.
against the Angels. I left work early, sat in the third deck of the Kingdome. I was there when Edgar Martinez or Luis Sojo hit that ball and Griffey scored, and I
Rest in peace,
wept.
Dave. Yeah.
I hugged men I didn't know.
Wow.
I cried, and you can only get that experience with people.
With people. People are everything. Man, I would have paid a lot of money to see you weep and cry and hold random people you've never met.
I did a tweet recently where I said, if you need to pick me up, you don't need coffee. Watch the movie Moneyball.
Oh.
And you want to see me cry? I just got to watch Moneyball.
Yeah.
Cry every time I watch Moneyball.
One of the greatest films of all time.
Every time I watch Remember the Titans, I cry.
One of the few movies you and I can both agree on. Hey, I think you said it. People are everything. If you're feeling isolated, maybe you're a pastor, maybe you're just watching, maybe you're just working from home. Hey, we love you. We want to really encourage you.
People need you.
People, they do.
Just like you need people, people need you. Just like you want relationship with people, people want relationship with you.
They do. Get involved, whether it's our church, a church, just get involved. I'll say this. I want to end the episode. I think the local church, we say this all the time. You say this, PB. The church is the hope of the world. Outside of the establishment of the church, it is so hard to make friends. If you don't have kids, like where else, like you're like, let's say you're 25, 30 living in a city, where else are you going to meet people? Like unless outside of work, it's really hard. Unless you have a hobby or something, it's really hard to make friends. And that's one of the things I'm really thankful for at our church. It is just, honestly, Ariel and I say this all the time. If we didn't work here, we would attend here. We just would. If I lived in the city, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the cool thing about church is church surrounds you with people, and there can be so many unique differences that you have, background differences, everything, but you agree on the thing that matters most, which is your values in Jesus, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for listening. Really hope you enjoyed today. We have another podcast coming up soon. Just thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, all that stuff. Till we see you guys next time, have a great we're entering the holidays here now. Are you excited? Thanksgiving and Christmas?
I am.
And
go Kraken tonight.
Go Kraken.
Our next podcast is a bit more controversial, so I'm going to warn you that if you don't want any controversy, please don't watch it.
Yeah, and and to be honest, if your feathers get ruffled, then maybe that might not be the episode to listen to.
Yeah, skip it.
Just hit next. We love you guys. We'll see you later.
Go Kraken.
Go Kraken.